Hi there, and welcome back to another edition of ScaleUp Radio, the podcast inspired by the entrepreneurial scale-up system and designed to make navigating our scale-up journeys that little bit easier by learning from others' experiences. And hopefully we'll get a little bit of inspiration along the way. I'm Kevin Brent, and this week on the show, I'm joined by Moises Barbera Ramos, the brain behind Drill Surgeries, who's revolutionizing the operating room with artificial intelligence. From a young visionary facing skepticism in the industry to building a really crucial network of believers for that credibility, Moises' tale is one of perseverance and of innovation, obviously. We'll touch on the vital role as well, though, of mental health for entrepreneurs in a surprising turn in the interview, and the art of securing the right investors and the importance of protecting your innovation. So join us as Moises shares his inspirational journey from concept to the cusp of transforming surgical practices. If you enjoy this episode and others, make sure you don't miss future episodes by subscribing to ScaleUp Radio wherever you like to listen to your podcasts. You can also nominate a guest for ScaleUp Radio if you know someone with an interesting scale-up story, and you can find out how in the show notes. So for now, get ready for a conversation filled with insights, inspiration, challenges, and the power of artificial intelligence in healthcare. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm delighted to be joined today, and I'm going to have to try and get this right. So it's Moises Barbera Ramos. So welcome, yes. Moises.
Thank you, Kevin.
Moises is the founder, lead researcher, and CEO of a company that's much easier to pronounce, Drill Surgeries. So Moises, welcome. And would you like to tell us what Drill Surgeries is all about?
Yeah, so Drill Surgeries is the first startup that has operated a broken bone using artificial intelligence in 1 minute and 37 seconds instead of up to 2 hours it takes to operate nowadays. So I think that's the catchy.
Yeah. So this is. I mean, I've had a quick look, and this is almost the Star Trek science fiction idea of merging AI with the medical industry. So it sounds absolutely fascinating, but I imagine it's a minefield. So, you know, tell us a little bit about the business, what stage you're at, and what that actually means, because using AI to do this operation in 1 minute, 37 seconds compared to the 2 hours sounds brilliant. But what does that actually look like if you're the patient on the operating table or the surgeon running the system?
Of course. So we have to take into account technology and how over the past, especially 30, 40 past years, technology has been increasing exponentially. But when it comes to other fields outside the smartphones or laptops, technology doesn't really have that much of an impact. And in this case, I'm referring especially to healthcare. In the case of healthcare, we still have doctors operating patients using the same techniques developed in the Second World War, over 80 years ago. So how is it possible that technology evolves and gives us so many opportunities to connect to other people, to take better pictures, to do better work, but yet we are still tied by the constraints of a century-year-old surgical technique?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happens when it comes to broken bones. Hospitals and especially medical device companies, the traditional ones, they are really good at building implants, but not so much at innovating. So that's what we are trying to do. We're trying to bring the technology, these innovations of the past decades, into the operating room. And when it comes to broken bones, an operation as simple as, okay, you have one bone, what used to be one, now it's two because it's broken.
Yeah.
You need to put an implant into it.
Okay.
So I can spend 2 hours shooting X-ray after X-ray, a trial and error that pushes patients into blood loss, into long-term anesthetics, complications overall.
Okay.
What if you're pregnant? You don't want radiation in you. So this technology, we can now put it on the operating room. It runs on a mixed reality headset. It builds holograms. As you said at the beginning, it feels kind of like Star Trek. Well, there's kind of like being in a Star Trek movie where now doctors can see the patient and can be guided precisely and accurately to the spots that they need to operate without radiation, without trial and error, without blood loss, without impacting our patients. I think that's the beauty of the technology.
Sounds great. So how's that image being created then? If it's not using radiation, how's that image being created?
Well, that is being created very well and very secretively, I'd say.
Yeah.
Okay. We are lucky enough to count with doctors, PhDs, scientists within our team, and we've been very good at creating these algorithms and mathematical models that have found a way to standardize this otherwise unique procedure. Because Kevin, you and I, we have different bones, and when we break them in different ways.
Yeah.
So the beauty, and that's what we've spent the past 5 years working on, is finding a standardization between your bones and my bones and any other bone in the world. That's our secret sauce.
Okay, great.
Standardization.
So the physician is getting a very accurate 3D generated image that enables them to go in. So they still have to, if they're putting an implant in or whatever they're doing, they still have to slice the patient open and put that in. Yeah, presumably.
Yes.
But they've got much better guidance technology, and it's not as if at the moment yet we're using the AI to get rid of the physician and just have a
oh no.
have a robot do it or something like that.
You don't want to do that. You definitely don't want to do that. And that's actually a very interesting topic that we were discussing at the Hot Topics Trauma Conference last week in Barcelona. I was in this panel. We were discussing what if AI eventually substitutes doctors. And the consensus that we reached to between traumatologists, different types of surgeons, and of course, AI innovators like myself, is you cannot get rid of the doctor, because at the end of the day, being a traumatologist, those that operate broken bones, is about art. You may have an idea of what is it that you are going to encounter, but then the pieces might change when you finally open up the patient, when you look closer, when you're in the middle of the operating room. And that thinking, that creativity that the surgeon must have is a must when you are in the middle of an operating room.
I think that's interesting because there's parallels for me with my limited experience in the Royal Air Force as a pilot, and of course, there's all that discussion. You've got automatic pilots anyway that
Yes.
pilots can set, but when you can use that to help you with all the planning of your mission, as long as everything goes exactly as planned and it's in the parameters of what you originally put in. But the moment something changes, that's when you almost certainly need the human intervention, maybe with aids to help them with the decision making, but you still need the human intervention.
100%, Kevin. And that's again what we are trying to do. We are giving you additional tools with this guidance system so that you can operate better. But at the end of the day, it's you the one performing the operation. It's you the one that's still doing the same things you used to do yesterday, but with an extra layer of information that we can give you today.
Brilliant. So tell me where have you got to in the stage of the business? What stage are you at?
Yeah, so it's been quite a journey lately, but I'm very happy to say that we are finally in clinical trials. We are actually in one hospital at the moment, in conversation with a couple other. And in this given hospital where we are at the moment, we have already operated 10 patients.
Okay.
And we've registered a 100% accuracy in guiding the doctor to the place where they need to operate, which is the guidance that we provide, the support that we provide the surgeons. So yeah, 100% accuracy is something I'm very happy with.
Yeah, and actually knowing a little bit about the pharmaceutical and the healthcare sector, just getting to the point where you've managed to get a clinical trial running is an enormous achievement, isn't it?
It is. It has not been easy. In the first place, it's been many years of development, but at the same time of building a community of surgeons that support this project. Because at the end of the day, for trials, you need to go to the hospital, but you need to prove the hospital that surgeons actually want to do this. You need to put all these people together to test it, to try it, present it to the hospital, receive the ethics committee approval, and then you can start convincing surgeons to use your technology in their clinical settings.
Yeah. So what will happen once this trial has come to its conclusion? How many? You've got 10 already. You said that have got 100% on it. What's the end point of the study?
So as part of this study, we are proving the medical community that this type of innovation works. At the same time, we are working with regulators to navigate the FDA, the UKCA here in the UK, and MDR in Europe, the ever-changing MDR, and use this evidence to then receive regulatory approval, compliance, and then go on and be able to sell it, and of course generate revenue as a result. Of course, start impacting more and more hospitals with the work that we've done.
And and again, that is a significant hurdle for anybody to be able to overcome. If you're a pharmaceutical company with a new product, it's a huge thing to get that. Whether it be from the US or whether it be from the UK or the European Medicines Control Agency, just to get that approval is really tough. So what are you? How far away do you think you're going to be from that?
So regulation is something that I started paying attention to at the start of the journey. I didn't want to build something that could take 10 years and 10,000 patients to regulate. So I moved away straight away from creating a new type of implant or creating anything that could remotely touch the patient.
Right.
That's why this process eventually led me to creating holograms.
Yeah.
Because you don't need to sterilize a hologram. It's on the patient, it's touching the patient, but it's not. It's a piece of technology that only those wearing the glasses can see.
Yeah.
Which means with that, we avoided years and millions of pounds in investment required to navigate the regulatory process. Because now we don't need 10 years of evidence.
Yeah.
All we need is statistical evidence. As long as you reach a good enough number of these patients to prove that you are statistically accurate. And at the moment, we are carrying a quite compelling strike of successes. With that, then it will be enough for us to receive the regulatory approval. Okay. It is still a journey because you need to talk with the auditors and you need to reach out to them, and they will give you, they will book a date in 2 months' time, and then in 2 months' time it will come the day and you'll spend £10,000 to talk to them, and then they'll tell you, okay, in 3 months we'll meet again. And so you never know how long it's going to take, but we anticipate between 6 and 18 months is a conservative range. We expect to be regulatory compliant in the FDA by early to mid 2025 if we are still being conservative. It's still months away rather than decades away.
Yeah, excellent. And that's an interesting insight into your thinking at the beginning as to how to recognizing the challenges and the lengths of that, because pharmaceutical companies can spend years in clinical trials, as you say, can't they? And whilst they might get a patent, and I'm sure we'll come on to patents or something in a minute, but whilst pharmaceutical company might get a patent granted early on, and it might give them 17 years or something worth of cover, by the time they've got the product through clinical trials, there's normally only 3 or 4 years left on that patent for them to monetize it.
Indeed.
So so on that, and you mentioned it, what is the business model? How are you going to monetize this? Who pays, and how does that work?
That is a very interesting question. And that's, again, something we had to spend a lot of time thinking about. In my case, I was lucky enough to have been born and growing up around the medical device distribution industry. So I know how hospitals purchase and buy implants and how they buy instrumentation to operate patients. I know the ins and outs of every operating theater. So with that, whenever anyone creates a medical device, it's often the thought that they want to introduce this into the operating room and into the NHS or any other healthcare network. The situation with that is, okay, you've got a great product. Now you've gone through regulation. Now you have to go through the procurement of the NHS system so that you can present it and make a case for the NHS needing this. If there's a procurement that's suited for you, you'll undergo one path and you'll have some conversations. If it's not the case, it's artificial intelligence and innovation in technology. It's a new, different path that you need to create for yourself with the respective bodies. So it was clear that that would be a very lengthy and political journey, as well as then a very expensive journey, because now once you've been accepted into the NHS network, you have to acquire one hospital at a time. And that means salesmen across the country and across any country that you want to acquire. So having learned that from experience, from conversations with high-ranking officials, etc., and having my experience growing up, it was clear that the way to go to market was by working and partnering with big medical device manufacturers and distributors.
Okay.
This gives us two advantages. The first one, and the main one, is that just by closing one sale, you already acquire a volume of hospitals, because you're working with any medical device manufacturer. They have the implants, and now instead of you having to approach one hospital at a time, these big manufacturers already distribute to these many hospitals in these many different regions, and you already have access to those. And secondly, it also allows us to move faster than any other medical device company trying to put anything into the market. Yes, it is true that our margins may be smaller, but the investment that we need to grow and scale is much smaller, and we can move much faster. So we've got the technology, they have the implants that are going to be used for these broken bones. And the broken bones that we are targeting are 20 million broken bones a year, which means 20 million implants a year.
Right.
And with that, working with the right implant manufacturers gives us access to a high volume. We are charging a licensing fee for every implant that they put in place. And that's how we are reaching market, scale, and revenue.
Very good. And I saw some amazing numbers on your website. You know, so you said 20 million there. What's the estimated size of the market? You're saving, so you're addressing some huge, was it $10 billion market? Did I see something like that?
Yes. So we are fixing a $10 billion problem. Initially. Yeah. And that is the cost of running an operating room, depending on where you're based. And if we remove the cost of people, the staff, the salaries of the people in the operating room, just the cost of the operating room is between $20 and $30 a minute. If you can operate a patient in 30 minutes, but you are spending 2 hours operating, you're losing money. Yeah. And that is a big problem. And it is already a big problem in a private healthcare system, as it is in a public healthcare system, where these costs run from all of our pockets, from our taxes.
Yeah.
So that is a big problem that we wanted to solve. And in this case, we are targeting broken bones. All of us, we all break our bones. We all know someone that has broken a bone. And the beauty of what we've built is that, okay, we are currently targeting three bones. We are targeting the tibia, the femur, and the humerus. So whenever you break your leg or your arm, we are there to help you.
Okay.
And that is giving us 20 million patients worldwide. 20 million patients break their arms or legs in a way in which we can fix them. Yeah. Like, that's not every single fracture in the world, because some of them, you just need a cast. For those that we can fix is 20 million. But the beauty of providing a medical device that it's a software is that you can scale it and deploy it remotely. Right. So we are currently operating 3 bones, but we already have a timeline and a pathway to operate and help in fixing the hips, in fixing the ankles, in fixing the knees, how to perform spine fusion, and many other surgeries, which means in the next 5 years, we aim to target 20 million patients a year, which is a £3 billion market with our existing revenue model. £3 billion a year worldwide. And as we scale, we can unlock more and more patients, and our goal is to reach to 100 million patients within the next 10 years. And as we continue growing, and with our existing model, which can of course vary and change as we work with more and more strategic partners, or if whatever happens with a potential strategic partner, we then continue to work on building and deploying more support, more guidance for more broken bones, be it the knee, the hip, the ankle, etc., and aiming to reach that 100 million patients a year during the next decade, which would be a beautiful outcome.
Brilliant. And absolutely. And did I understand it then essentially? So you said it's a licensing model with your distributor. So are your distributors paying you the license fee essentially? They then will charge the hospitals as they see fit, essentially.
Yeah. So the way to approach this is not only because it's more efficient and more effective for us, but because we are providing doctors with a guidance system. And this is something that is often provided along with the implant. Whenever you have to put an implant, you could expect to have some type of guidance to know where to put this implant. The problem is that in these operations, there's no guidance. So now the question is, if every implant is the same, so let's say they have to fix your arm and they put a metallic rod. If every implant is the same, company A, company B, it takes 2 hours to operate the same metallic rod. Will you rather pay £1,000 for a metallic rod that takes 2 hours to operate? Or will you pay £1,200 for a rod that takes 30 minutes to operate?
Exactly. And the offer for the hospital is very compelling because, as you say, they're saving that huge amount of operating theatre time and the cost that goes with that.
Indeed. And radiation, which means patients and medical personnel are healthier, and morbidity for the patients themselves, which means they can recover faster, which then leads to healthier aging. Everyone wins, basically.
Brilliant. So it sounds absolutely amazing, and
thank you.
And I know that we've just probably scratched the surface of the complexities that you've had to go through, the hurdles you've had to overcome. So let's I'd like to just explore some of those a little bit. But first, what got you into this? What made you think, that's what I'm going to do? How did that come about?
Yes. I think as I kind of grasped a moment ago, I grew up around hospitals. In my case, I grew up around hospitals. My dad's a salesman of medical equipment for over 35 years now. So growing up, I would finish school. He would pick me up. We would go to some hospital, and he would say, "Okay, son, wait here. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. It's a quick surgery. Standard." Well, it would be 2, 3, 4 hours. I would be asleep on the lobby of the hospital or chatting to some sergeant that recognized me, or Moises' son or something. So I grew up around hospitals. I learned a lot about implants. I even learned how to perform certain trauma operations before I turned 10.
Wow.
Because of how much time I spent in the hospital and because I was really interested in the field. But then I was also so frustrated with it that I ended up resenting the whole healthcare system. So I walked away from it.
Why were you so frustrated and resented the healthcare system?
Because as a kid, I wanted to spend time with my dad,
right,
or at least at home. And I was promised something that they couldn't deliver. I was promised 30 minutes, and I was forced to fall asleep and spend hours in the operating room, in the lobby of the hospital. And that happened day after day after day for a very long time. I didn't spend my evenings at home playing with my friends. I would spend them there doing homework and chatting to surgeons. So it was that frustration that pushed me away, kind of, from it. It's again that same frustration, the one that brought me back into it. And it was back in 2018. I spent my summer developing tracking algorithms for self-driving cars in China.
Okay.
And during that time, I really enjoyed building algorithms, finding guidance systems for complex environments, as it's a self-driving car. And I went back to Spain for a week, and I was chatting to one of these surgeons that saw me grow up. And he was like, "Well, Moises, it's been so long. Like, what's it that you're doing?" I was like, "I found a way to drive cars more efficiently without human interaction." And this doctor was, "Wouldn't it be nice if we could also drive doctors more efficiently?" And that's when the light bulb sparked. And I was like, wow, why not? Why was my dad spending 3-4 hours in the operating room? Why was a standard surgery that was scheduled for 30 minutes delayed for 2 hours? Well, I started to ask around. I asked hundreds of surgeons. I found why that surgery takes 2-3 hours instead of 30 minutes. And now it's that frustration that's helping me solve those issues.
Brilliant. So you've now got the idea and you've got the kind of got the vision, but there's still a tremendous way to go to get to where you've got to now. So what are some of the key things you've learned along the way? Maybe some of the key milestones, key lessons.
Yeah. So the first key lesson is that it's very difficult for a traditional industry to listen to a kid unless you show them a technology and you don't tell them who built it. So
how old were you at this stage when you?
So I was 20 years old when I started working on this.
Yeah.
I would spend every one of my evenings working, thinking about potential solutions. I went through many iterations before I reached an algorithm that runs on a mixed reality headset. Back then, mixed reality headsets weren't even a thing. Technology had not yet caught up with the software that I started to build.
Right.
And that was very interesting. But there's a time in which I start talking to people. So I start skipping classes at university to go to talk to these people. And I'll spend the little money that I had to go from Liverpool, where I was studying, to London, meet with doctors, with potential investors, with big companies, big names, and saying like, "Hey guys, I've been asking around. I know it's difficult to operate a metallic rod, an implant, and I think I have a way to make it better." So I was wearing my suit, my tie, of course, like trying to play the part. It's a 20-year-old without a beard. And all they said, it's okay, we have it covered. You should go back to class. You're going to be late. And
yeah.
So that was very frustrating. And it was like that for a full year. Then during my final year of university, I even spent less time in class. But I was spending more time in the library learning and figuring out ways to build this software. So by the time I finished building it, at the end of the year, I still managed to graduate, I promise. Yeah. I had a prototype. It worked on plastic pieces that I had 3D printed on my own. And I could record a video of this, and then I would send it to key people and say, "Well, what do you think about this?" And I wouldn't say anything else. And they would be like, "Oh, this is great. Like this actually solves the problem that we've been encountering." And they are like, "Oh, can you tell me more about this? Like who built this? Like, and everything." And I would be, "Well, this is actually my idea. I built this myself. I could often show this to doctors. I'm trying to find doctors around myself that would be willing to help me move this forward, like put a good word for me to when I talk to investors or key individuals to say, okay, me, myself, doctor from this hospital in the UK or this hospital in Spain, I've been working with Moises in this product, and it's exactly what we surgeons need today. And it's building that advocacy, that support from the clinical field, from the medical professionals that got me further in my journey. That's exactly what I needed. And once I had a strong team of surgeons talking well about my technology, and once I had a strong enough technology, I was then in a position to start going to startup competitions. And I started to win a few. I was in a position to apply for grants. And I won a few, like the Innovate UK Smart Grant.
Okay.
A couple of years ago, I started to build a bigger team. And then I brought in operations and strategy from renowned companies that could give my proposition, my solution, more weight, more reputation. And that was key to place ourselves, to place Drill Surgeries in the position in which is today, which is it's got a strong team, scientists, PhDs, doctors, experts from the medical device industry with decades of years of experience.
Okay.
And a strong enough technology that nobody else questions if it came from the college dorm or where it came from.
So all of that sounds, it sounds really good. And looking back on it, from an outside, it sounds great. Must have cost you a lot of money. It must have to get to. We're talking now about all the time involved in developing the software, but what you've just talked about there is all of the building the credibility and building that team around you. That doesn't come cheap, does it?
It does not. And that was actually I think that was one of the hardest periods of my life, of my short life as well so far. Exciting times ahead still. But back then, so the first year and a half of the startup, I'm still at university. So I've got the little money that I saved before I went to university from doing different jobs. And I have that to sustain myself. So I realized that I need to talk to people. I need to find out about more people. So I just start to go whatever it is that I need to be to make my company grow, to talk to these doctors and get them on my side. So I started going less and less to class, which means I almost get expelled from university twice.
Right.
But I was good enough taking exams and talking to the people. So they eventually allowed me to graduate, take the exams. And I actually graduated with honors, which I'm very happy with.
Great.
And I even got invited to give my university graduation speech during the pandemic, which was interesting as well. But after all of that, it's okay. Nobody's hiring because it's in the middle of the pandemic when you graduate. And I had already had experience working for CERN in Switzerland, for JP Morgan, in China for research.
Yeah.
So I wanted to do my own thing. So instead of taking a job, I went back home and I continued working on my startup. But of course, you cannot create a big medical technology startup from a small village in Spain. So where were my prospective clients and hospitals and doctors? They were in the UK and abroad. So I could use the little money that I had to fly to these countries. And for the majority of a year and a half or 2 years, I lived in the couches of my friends. So
right. So you literally sort of Airbnb. Okay.
I literally lived in their couches. I had a couple of I had a small bag with my laptop, my prototype to continue growing it, and then a couple of t-shirts and jeans and a suit, enough to live for 2 years. So whenever I was, wherever they were living, they were kind enough to lend me their couch, and I would spend a week or so with them. Whenever they weren't around, I had to be more creative, and I eventually found myself sleeping in benches and sleeping in train stations, just so that I could be close enough
Wow.
to where these surgeons were. That was my motivation. That was my way to save money. As you say, it's not a cheap process, so I tried to find the cheap version of it.
Yeah.
So I could go from one train station to the other, sleep there, so I wouldn't have to pay for a hotel. And then the next morning, I could go and visit any surgeon or wait for them at the exit of the hospital, waiting for them to come out, have a chat in the 10-minute break that they could have. And it was an interesting experience. I also made sure to go to every conference I could afford and I could get an access to, which most of them came from networking and getting invites. So you only have to pay the transportation together, but we'll let you in for free,
Yeah.
which is something I'm very grateful for. And it's actually also part of that journey, being in those conferences, risking it all and sleeping whatever it is that you need to sleep in order to be close to the people that you need to be close to. It eventually led me to meet who eventually became our first angel investor.
Okay.
And of course, our first group of clinical researchers and our first clinical group that started to say, okay, I believe in this product, it's something we need, and started to talk good things about what we were doing, supporting us and so on. So it eventually paid off.
Good. So whilst you'd grown up in the medical device kind of industry, so you were in and around hospitals, you kind of had a feeling and understanding of the requirements in that sector. I imagine you probably had never had to deal with angel investors and raising money and things like that before. This is all new for you. So tell us what surprised you about that, or what you've learned about raising money.
So I found out that there's different types of investors, and of course I've always been very proactive, very engaging with everyone, and always very trustworthy. I consider I have no reasons to not trust anyone until proven otherwise. So I've always gone with that attitude to talk to people, and I found investors that were just trying to gather as much information from you without really ever being interested in going one step further.
Right.
I found out there's investors that will promise you the moon and will keep you engaged for as long as it takes so that you don't go with anybody else. And then at the last moment, they will change their terms completely.
Okay.
And because they promised you the moon, you have not been talking to anyone else. So now it's, you either go with them with those terms, or you are, again, broke without any money.
That's interesting. That's similar to what's called retrading, when people are selling their businesses. In that you get you get somebody that you've got the deal, you start due diligence, and you go through it 3 months, and or however long it takes due diligence. All the time you've now got an exclusive arrangement with this person, company, investor, whatever it is, and then at the end of that, either legitimately because they found something that's different from what they thought originally, or sometimes less so, they know they've got you over a barrel to a certain extent. So that's an interesting lesson.
Indeed. And then you also have the people that are like, especially in earlier startups, but people that believe in you, believe in the team, people that then believe in the technology, that believe there's a big enough market for it, and people that want to see you succeed on the long run. So you kind of have those situations, people that are not interested, people that are not interested and make you waste time, people that are interested for their own benefit, and they just try to squeeze you out as soon as they can. And then people that truly believe in the idea. And that was a very strong realization, because for kind of like 6 months, it was all the first types of conversations. And then it's been in one of these conferences, finding the right investor. And I've actually been following your journey for the past 2 years. I love it. I've been trying to get in touch with you all this time, but I didn't have a way to. I want to be part of this journey if you let me to. Then at the end of the day, we ended up with a couple of offers on the table. And we took that from the people that truly believed in our mission, our team, our technology, and our long run.
Great. And you mentioned terms, and I'm sure I'm not asking you for the specific details of the terms, but how do you go about with a company that's on the one hand possibly just a little bit of software, right? At one point. On the other end of the scale, you're talking about solving a $10 billion problem. So how on earth do you come to a sensible investment term with a business angel?
So that's why in these scenarios, trust is so important. Because, it's a huge market. And of course, if we were in the United States, valuations would be 10x. Now, you're in the UK, but UK is not Europe either, where valuations are even overall, in average, smaller than those created in the UK. So, but at the same time, you still have that smaller type of mentality that says, no, you don't have sales, which means your company cannot be valued at more than 1 million. But in 5 years, I will be generating 60 million pounds.
Yeah.
It's like, but not today. So you are worth this much. But so it's finding a narrative of saying, we are not valuing our business in technology, in our revenue, because we won't have any in years. And we are not going to sacrifice the entirety of our company for a couple 100,000. We are valuing this technology, this startup, in the value of our technology, the market, the problem that we are solving, the support. So that's why having a group around you, even if it's just people that say, yes, I believe in you, is so important. It's like we have this group of people that want to use this technology as soon as it's regulated, which means we will be generating this much revenue the moment we are regulated, and finding that narrative. It, of course, will not couple with every investor, and you need to be ready to walk away from investors that say, well, we think our valuation is, let's say, 10 million. Well, I think your valuation is 2 million. Well, I'm not going to give 5 times more equity for the same result. So it's that process. It's not an easy process, but always be willing to walk away. I think that's the end of the story.
All right.
Talk to everyone, get a few things on the table, and be ready to walk away when they show you their cards.
Yeah. So, and don't have all your eggs in one basket, as the expression goes. Yes. Yeah. Good. And you mentioned, when I asked you at the very beginning, how does the imaging technology work? You were sort of saying that's your secret sauce, essentially.
Yes.
What's been your approach to protecting your IP?
Yes. So there's different components to our technology, some of which are patentable, and some of which have already been patented, some of which we have already patented.
Okay.
So back in 2022, we filed for our first patent, which was published last year here in the UK. We are still protected under the PCT treaty worldwide. We are working with a number of experts to extend this one by the end of 2024, moving into 2025, to more regions. And this patent is covering all the major innovations that we've done. It's a general enough patent that gives us protection in all the major aspects of our innovation. Then we have another aspect, which is the algorithms that we've built. These algorithms improve eye tracking on any mixed reality headset. It can be used for any type of technology, but for us, we are using it in a medical environment. So we've improved eye tracking in any mixed reality headset that's on a black box with us. We've improved CPU usage of a mixed reality headset, so it never goes over 60 or 70% to avoid overclocking, overheating, which could then lead to lag and spatial drift, which you want to avoid. So we found a very smart way to get rid of those things. So we've got a series of algorithms that we keep in a black box, secret know-how within our environment. And we have already identified an extra 5-6 patents that we are aiming to move forward with in the next 6 months. This is not something we've been able to move forward with just yet. So we are about to face a really resource-consuming IP and regulatory piece of work, which means we need further resources to support us during that journey. So we are currently raising investment, and as part of that investment piece, we'll be moving forward with an additional 5 or 6 patents that we aim to patent in this time period.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. So I, as you can probably gather, I'm fascinated. I think, the whole thing is absolutely fascinating. I could keep asking you questions probably for the next couple of hours, but I probably shouldn't. So
over a coffee another day.
Yeah. So I guess, before we go into just the sort of little quick fire round at the end, just to get a couple of things, is there anything else that perhaps I should have asked you that you'd like to, that perhaps, as a key lesson that you've learned in the last, what is it? 6 years essentially since.
Yeah. So I think, and this is something I'm starting to pay more and more, well, it's something that I've started to pay a lot of attention over the past couple of years. And it's something that I never thought it was important, and no one told me it was important, and that is mental health.
Right.
During the time that I was building this technology and this crazy idea, not many people believed in it, especially those close to me, because they are like, well, you're going into fancy jobs, or it's your family, and they say, well, why are you sleeping in the couch or in a bench when you could be home with us? We'll take care of you, and you'll have a nice job, and because you went to a good university and everything. Why are you putting yourself through that? And why are you putting yourself to be alone for so long? And why are you putting yourself through rejection so often? So for the majority of 2020, 2021, 2022, majority of 23, I severely suffered from depression, loneliness, and anxiety.
Right.
And I'm only starting to talk about this after talking with professionals in the matter that helped me view a way in which I was not necessarily forced to suffer. We entrepreneurs, we think the whole weight of our startup is on our shoulders, and it is technically, but we don't need to face it alone. We can talk to our friends because they care. I thought they didn't because they were busy with their lives, and I was like, well, you can do the same that I'm doing and you won't be suffering from that. But they actually care about you, and they say, well, I understand you. I'm here to listen. So that's something I'm trying to get more people to pay attention to, because it was very hard on me. And now I'm trying to open myself to anyone that also wants to speak up when we feel down. So
brilliant. No, thank you for sharing that. Really appreciate that. And I'll ask you at the end how people can get hold of you or find out more about Drill Surgeries. By the way, what's behind the name Drill Surgeries?
So, okay, that's the name of the company, and now it's too late to change it as we've evolved. But it basically comes from drill, which is a drill.
Yeah.
Because we are focusing on guiding surgeries that require a drill to operate.
Yeah. Okay.
And surgeries. So, which is what you are using the drill on. I just made a bunch of combinations, and I found the algorithm that gave you the highest amount of visualizations on Google as a combination of words, and that was the result.
Okay.
So that's the name of the company. The name of the product, so the name of the guidance system itself, what I believe is closer to the surgeon and to the market as well, is called Saori. It's a very weird word. Let me walk you through it.
Yeah.
So Saori, Z-A-R-O-Y, is an amplified version of the Spanish word Thaori, which means divining rod.
Okay.
Divining rod, once a pseudoscience used to find water or which you were looking for the most.
Yeah.
Now a real science designed to guide you to that which you need.
Yeah, the divining rod. Yeah. Nice. Very good. Well, it has been absolutely fascinating, and clearly,
Yes.
really, really fascinating. So are you all right for a couple of quick fire questions before we finish?
Let's go.
Great. So, if you go back to when you're 18 now,
yes,
what would you do differently? What one thing would you, or what would your advice be to your 18-year-old self, knowing what you know now?
Talk to more people.
Okay.
Talk to more people. Be more open.
All right. Good. You're obviously somebody that is continually learning. Are there any particular resources, whether they be books, podcasts, or whatever they might be, that you would suggest to other entrepreneurs that they go and seek out?
One of the things I enjoy the most is listening to Business Wars. It's a podcast by Wondery. It's also available on Spotify. They showcase some of the biggest fights between companies like Snapchat versus Facebook.
Yeah.
They talk to you about Pepsi versus Coke, all of this. And it's beautiful, especially those that relate to technology, because they go from the beginning of their respective stories to the end. So you get to see an insight of how was Snapchat created in this dormitory, and what legal issues between the co-founders they had to navigate, and what was the outcome.
Interesting.
So,
love it.
Business Wars, my favorite podcast to learn anything about business, because history repeats itself. So
yeah, good, excellent. Thank you. You're obviously in the artificial intelligence world, but are there any particular apps or bits of software that you find particularly useful for what you do?
For what I do, so my software is all based on Virtual Studio and Unity. So those are my core. That's where I spend most of my day.
And I'm thinking probably not detail necessarily about your particular algorithms you're writing, but maybe about running the business and helping you with that. Well, any apps that.
Yes, sorry. So initially, Trello has been very, very useful because as we've been growing and we've been diversifying our needs, Trello has been key for project management. And then the Atlassian platform for our regulatory work. So Atlassian, their Jira software has been key also to keep track of every modification that we do. So we make sure it's compliant with every regulatory body.
Yeah.
So those two things outside of software development, those two pieces of software, Jira and Trello, are key on our day-to-day activities as well to maintain and run a good business and compliant business.
And who do you look up to? Maybe who's had the most influence on you as a business leader?
That's a question I think a lot about, actually. And I couldn't give you a straight answer because it depends on the time. So, for example, I really like Mark Anderson. He created the first internet browser, Mosaic. And then his university, I believe it was the University of Chicago, I hope I don't mess that one up, stole his intellectual property and kept it for themselves because he developed it as a student in the university computers. So he then put together his friends and they developed Netscape, which was an improved version of Mosaic which they eventually sold for over $1 billion when they were still
great. So
university dropouts.
Mark Anderson. And if you could ask Mark Anderson any question, what would it be?
Ooh. Okay, I have Mark Anderson in front of me. That's always a tricky question. I don't want to rush it. So the first question that came to mind, and especially Mark Anderson being someone that created something unique and got it stolen, and then rised like a phoenix and created something even better. What is it that you fear?
Okay.
Because you created some of the most difficult and most exciting pieces of innovation. You got it all stolen, and you started from scratch, and you fought this huge organization that stole it from you, and you succeeded. So I don't think anything will fear Mark Anderson. Yeah. So I would ask you, what is it that you fear?
Brilliant. Love it. Fantastic. And a really good one to end on. And I looks like I managed to make you have to think about that one. So that's good. So thank you for that.
I really enjoyed that.
Brilliant. Well, it's been an absolute delight to have you on, Moises. So
thank you, Kevin.
If people would like to get hold of you or find out more about Drill Surgeries, what's the or Divining Rod? I'm sorry, I can't remember the name of the product.
Drill Surgeries, yes.
Yes. What's the best way for them to do that?
So, because this is a podcast, and I would be more than happy to get in touch in a more personal way. So LinkedIn, Moises Barbera Ramos, as it will be spelled on the episode. I believe that would be the best way to reach out to me.
Great.
Of course, you can go to the website, drillsurgeries.com, and we are currently raising investment. So on our website, drillsurgeries.com, you've got all the information. But of course, in order to get to know each other and to talk together, should you have any questions, should you have any thoughts about entrepreneurship or mental health or anything, my LinkedIn is always open, and I'd also love to hear about your stories. So that would be Moises Barbera Ramos, as it will be spelled on the episode, and always happy to connect and chat.
Brilliant. Well, Moises Barbera Ramos, thank you very much indeed for being my guest on ScaleUp Radio today.
Thank you so much, Kevin. It's been my pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.